ready,
Now, now, today is a pretty black day for the world, but we have a bright light here because we have a 39-year-old joining us, and 2 days ago was her birthday, and here is her birthday cake. And her name is Julia, and there she is. So we're all going to sing happy birthday to Julia in Hebrew. No.
Okay. Ayom yom. Oh, we did. Ayom yom. Oh, the actual. That's the American version. This is so bad.
Now,
Julia, I'm so hard. I will sing it to you later the correct way. I'm sorry.
Julia, you have to blow out the candles. So go ahead and take a deep breath.
Blow out your candles.
Julia, take a big deep breath and blow out the candles. You got it? Ready? Son of a gun.
Hey.
Wow, it's magic.
Mazal tov, Ad Nevesrim.
Toda rabbi. It made it all the way across the ocean.
Yay. Right. Good job. And happy birthday. The first one is we're going to release, and I'm going to ask Alana to post, what is the preliminary SARL schedule for the rest of this year, starting with March 27th. This is not yet officially released, but this is probably what it's going to look like. And you'll notice that we have a bunch of different programs right until August. And in there are, the first one actually is March 27th, VFI Plus Archaeology, that is going. I will be there with my granddaughter, Mina, and along with a bunch of other folks. And anybody who has that time slot available for 2 weeks who wants to have a fantastic experience in Israel with Julia, with archaeology, the real thing, by the way, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, and 1 week service on a base, that's for you. If you're interested, if that fits in your schedule, I suggest you get a hold of Lana immediately, and let's have a conversation. We're really running tight. The plane leaves in 30 days, so we can make it happen. So that's our schedule looking forward. The VFI Plus programs will also run again in the fall. As you can see, the schedule only runs till August, so we will be announcing the fall schedules a little later. The index to all of the VFI Educates programs still exists. It's at tinyurl.com/VFI Educates 2, just number 2. And there you can, with a click, watch any one of the previous 131 episodes at your convenience. And I would like to ask that you folks who participate in that, feel free to share that index with your friends. I just shared that index today with my dentist. He was delighted because he's working 2 o'clock in the afternoons on Thursdays. And so friends will thank you if you let them know this kind of asset, and it really is a world-class asset, is available to them for free. Okay, Miss Julia, birthday girl.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Guys, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, Pamela, thank you. All right. So I will start sharing my screen, and thank you for the cake. It was delicious. And the best birthday present for me would be your coming back in reality. No matter how much I enjoy your company, virtually, but it will be so much better in reality. I'm sure positive. And I'm glad that you waited for me because I was stuck in the traffic jam on my way back from Jerusalem. And I made it through a traffic jam coming back from Bethlehem. So anyhow, God is with me today. It was a great trip for Israeli tour guides. So here we start. Let me start sharing screen. Okay. Okay, just another sec. Hey, okay. Can you see the Beit Shearim with Julia Newman? Yeah, okay, Pamela, thank you. You are so helpful. So just before I start sharing the presentation and talking to you, so this is a pay as you wish presentation as always, and this is my PayPal, and donations are appreciated as always. So let's start touring. I chose Beit Shearim because it is a very small and fascinating site, and somehow most people never make it there. I don't know how about you, and we have quite a few people, so I will not ask you personally, but I do know as an old tour guide that most tour groups never visit. They never have the time. It never fits the schedule, and yeah, you can leave without it. But since we are traveling virtually for 1.5 years now, so that's definitely time for us to visit Beit Shearim. And this is the best season to do it, because as you can see on my screen, your screen now, it's full of anemones. It's just gorgeous. The blossom is truly amazing. So we have flowers, and we have caves, and we have a story to it. So let's begin. As we approach Beit Shearim, which is located not far from Haifa, that's about maybe half an hour drive from downtown Haifa. You start driving along the Carmel Mount, and you drive east towards the Sea of Galilee, and within about half an hour you make it to a relatively small community, which is called Kiryat Tivon. And inside Kiryat Tivon, there is a national park, which is called Beit Shearim, which is our destination. So as we start driving downhill, approaching Beit Shearim, so this is the first archaeology we see on the way. Steve just talked about archaeology. So this is the first one. So we pass it by because this is, not something special enough for us to stop by. And then we keep driving. This is the road. Let's drive. Okay. As you can see, again, the best season, everything is green. We have the shkediot, the almond trees now in blossom.
He really wants more people for archaeology, so he doesn't want to scare them away by giving two something on it.
Barry, we can hear you.
Sorry.
Okay, so we are driving. You see that we're driving downhill, and now on our left-hand side, there is a road which we are not allowed to drive. And actually, it's almost impossible because the road is very narrow and very old. But I do want you to pay attention to this little road taking us uphill, because later, after visiting the Beit Shearim National Park, we will be back to this road. We will walk this road for just a few minutes, and there is something interesting for us up there. So right now we ignore the road. And we are here at this beautiful anemones field. The red flowers, the white flowers, some of them are even purple, very red purple flowers. It's all anemones. And as you can see here, a little bit of linguistics. The word anemone in Hebrew, the name of the flower is kalanit. It's actually a girl's name as well, and the word kalanit comes from the word kala, while kala is a bride. So the idea is the kalaniyot, the anemones, they are as beautiful as brides. Now we don't normally see brides wearing red, but actually in some cultures this is the color for bride. But anyhow, it is definitely beautiful as a bride. And here's a surprise for us. You can see a bride and a groom taking their photos just before getting married. And this is an Arab couple. I mean, I couldn't tell until I saw the lady who was their photographer, and she was definitely Orthodox Muslim. That was really nice to see, a young couple with this beautiful red flowers, roses in the dress, and it was just it fit so well. And this is a national park, and it's all about Jewish history. And here they are, and it truly gave me some feelings, some hope of coexistence, of peace, and just people are living their lives and they're happy. So this is the kala among the kalaniyot. Here are some cyclamens, or in Hebrew, they are called rakafot, another beautiful natural scenery. let's take a closer look at them. Okay, very, very common, very typical flower in Israel. They always blossom among rocks. There's even an Israeli song about it. And well, it is so pretty. More anemones. I had to share it with you. I really love anemones, and the season is very short, and people are literally like getting crazy, running all over the country, looking at the anemones, and they give photos of them. So just a bit more and a different color of the anemones. And yeah, and this is just a beautiful tree. This is a pomegranate tree. You can tell, you can see these little dry, dead pomegranates, but this tree is waiting for a true spring. So, you know, it's winter time in Israel, but this is the blossom time. And yet the pomegranate is waiting for the true summer. You know, seasons in Israel are very short and very sort of mixed up. And here we are starting exploring the caves. Now, Beit Shearim is all about caves, and if you don't like caves, so you'd better avoid Beit Shearim. And if you don't like caves, I can understand, because I'm a bit claustrophobic. But hopefully, you know, via Zoom, it will work out. If you don't feel well, so you close your eyes, and, you know, it will be over in 40 minutes maybe. So the first cave is the so-called cave of Yitzchak Zeira, son of Shimon. We have no idea what was another cave, but just before we, you know, we get into some of these caves and look at them closer, I want us to, you know, brief history of why this place is actually important and why do we have that many caves. So the whole thing is associated, connected to Sanhedrin. Some of you already joined me on a tour of part of the Sanhedrin trail. So just to make the long story short, the Sanhedrin is a gathering of Jewish sages, which existed during the Second Temple period. They used to reside inside the temple itself in the so-called Lishkat Gazit. And then they moved away into another part of the Temple Mount, and then they moved into the city of Jerusalem. And after the destruction of the temple, they had to leave Jerusalem and they moved to Yavne. If you did participate in a tour in Yavne, so we have mentioned it back then. Anyways, the Sanhedrin moved from one place to the other, from Yavne, which is south from Tel Aviv, to the north, from one place to the other, and eventually the Sanhedrin, this gathering, made it to Tiberias. And that was the end of the story. The Sanhedrin was canceled in Tiberias back in 425 AD by the Byzantine Empire. All right, okay. And since one of the places where Sanhedrin resided was this town of Beit Shearim, exactly where we are now, so Beit Shearim is also the starting point of the so-called Sanhedrin trail. And here you can see the rock which marks the trail with some expressions from the Talmud and the Mishna. And here you can see the sign, the way for you to know that you are on the right trail. So, well, the Sanhedrin, as any other gathering, same as the parliament today, needed a head of the Sanhedrin, and the head of the Sanhedrin used to be called a Nassi, and Nassi is a president, same word we use today, but it's not a political term back then, but rather a religious. So the head of this religious gathering of the sages used to be called a Nassi. And wherever the Nassi, the president, used to live, so this is where the Sanhedrin was gathering. All right. And the greatest ever Nassi, the greatest ever president, the head of the Sanhedrin, was Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, and his home used to be in Beit Shearim. Now, just before we say a few more words about Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, look at the requests. I mean, in order to be a member of the Sanhedrin, you had to be, okay, you had to have a wisdom. Well, first of all, of course, you had to be a male, okay? No women could ever be part of the Sanhedrin, which is so much unfair. So at least today, we do have female members of the Knesset. We do have female ministers, okay? By the way, we never had a woman as a president of the State of Israel. We did have a prime minister, but never a president. So that's something we are looking forward to. So anyways, in the ancient times, in order to be a member of the Sanhedrin, you had to have a wisdom. You have to have an appearance. Okay, you must be handsome. You have to have a stature, and you have to be old, but not very old. You have to be with sorcery. I mean, you had to know something about magic. Okay, we don't really know what they meant by this, but this is the request in the Talmud. And then you have to know 70 languages. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you have to be able to speak foreign languages because they did not want to hear from an interpreter, which is a good idea because things are often lost in translation. And then on top of all this, Maimonides would add this. They should not be very old, and they must have offspring, and they had to be able to have offspring. So no eunuch. I'm not sure how do you pronounce this word? Somebody who cannot have sex. I'm not sure what is the right pronunciation. But anyway, I hope you understand what I mean.
Eunuch.
Okay? Eunuch. Eunuch. Okay. I know perfectly well what it means. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. Anyways, so you should not be one of those on top of all the other requests, according to Maimonides, because what said was, and I think this is so true. The member of the Sanhedrin who actually decides upon, the destiny of Jewish people at the time, he had to be merciful. He had to be compassionate. And if you don't have children, so you're less compassionate. And I think there is something in it. Obviously, not 100%, but I think people who do have children, they're more of, love people, maybe, even though I'm sure that quite a few Christian nuns would disagree. Anyway, forget it. This is what Maimonides said about the member of Sanhedrin. And Sanhedrin moved to one place to the other. And as you can see, they moved to Beit Shearim. And that's where we are. Back to Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, what is so important about him? He was the assembler of the Mishna. He was the one who actually, not he on his own, but in his time, the Sanhedrin took all the oral Torah, all these oral rules, which were never written down because that was forbidden. Okay, that's so weird to say it now, but back then it was totally forbidden because this is why you had the written Torah, Tanakh, and the oral Torah. And if you want it to be oral, so you don't write it down. There is a logic to it. But in the times of Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, he realized that we are already past the Bar Kokhba revolt, and the majority of the Jews do not live in Israel. And the majority of the Jews are, they are in the diasporas, a little community, and things are getting lost. If we do want to keep this incredible, endless knowledge of Judaism, so we have to write it down. And so he changed the law. And he was the one who assembled the Mishnah, according to which later the Talmud was assembled, and there is no way Judaism today can exist without it. So Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, who lived in Beit Shearim, at some point he decided to move. But that happens. So he moved, and he moved to another town, which is called Tzipori. Okay, we already had a virtual tour of Tzipori. If you can recall, we were talking about mosaics, the beautiful mosaics of Tzipori. Anyway, at some point, he passed away. You know, he died. And for whatever reason, his will was to be buried in Beit Shearim. That's what he wanted. So he was indeed buried in Beit Shearim. And since he was buried in Beit Shearim, and he was the greatest rabbi ever, at least until his time, so there were so many other Jews starting from this moment who wanted to be buried in Beit Shearim, you see. And therefore, whoever could afford it would have his tomb in Beit Shearim. And since at the time, what you see here in front of you, as you can maybe recognize, is the Jewish cemetery of Mount of Olives. Okay, the ancient, the most important Jewish cemetery. So since this cemetery, as a result of the Bar Kokhba revolt starting from 135 AD, was off limits for Jews. Okay, they could not be buried there, so they needed a substitute for a central Jewish cemetery. So you need to find another location. And hey, Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi already chose Beit Shearim. So let's make Beit Shearim a place to go if you die. And this is how Beit Shearim up in the Galilee became the central national necropolis for hundreds and hundreds of years. Later, of course, it lost its significance because whenever the Jews were able to come back to Jerusalem and reside in Jerusalem and be buried in Jerusalem and Mount of Olives, so that was much, much better. And so Beit Shearim was abandoned. But for hundreds of years, this was the go-to cemetery. And here we have just a little bit of the archaeological excavations. Unfortunately, a lot of caves, the spiral caves, which are already identified and excavated, are not open to the public. I have no idea why, okay? The National Parks Authority, who is in charge of it today, is talking for, I don't know, like 10, 20 years maybe, I'm not sure, but like long time, about opening the other caves for the public as well. It hasn't happened yet. So we will see whatever we can see. Okay, that's the deal. So we started walking and we already saw one of the smaller caves, and then we see the ruined large cistern. And of course, we need a lot of water, not just for the people who are alive, but also for the dead, because part of the ritual before one is buried, the body must be washed and then purified. So you definitely need a large water cistern in a large cemetery. And then we can see these openings of the cave, which is, as you can see, a cave of the Sidonian head of the Jewish community. Now, the fact that there is a Jewish community in Sidon, which is in Lebanon today, this is not surprising. Because we simply know about the Jewish communities which are mentioned starting from the First Temple period. But just imagine that if today, we have a border between Israel and Lebanon, there's no way we can cross it, okay, unless we are military. But suppose we would be able to cross the border, so that would take us maybe 3 hours, something like that, maybe 3 hours drive from Beit Shearim to Sidon. But back then, that would take you a few weeks. So now imagine that you died in Sidon, but you are, as a faithful Jew, you want to be buried next to Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi. So somebody must carry your coffin for a few weeks this is schlepping around, but they actually bothered. And we know that this burial cave belonged to the head of the Sidonian community because an inscription, according to that, was found there. And we have a whole study about the Jewish communities which are represented there. And this is just incredible. We have Jews from all over. I'm not talking just about the land of Israel, but we are talking about Egypt and Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, all over the place, and even Turkey. So that means that was so important. Now, some of these caves were found open, as the one we saw before, and some of these caves, they still have this amazing, beautiful doors. I hope you can see the doors. We will take a closer look later. These doors are very, very heavy, and they're made of a local limestone, which is chiseled in a way so it will look like a wooden door. Again, a lot of work, a lot of trouble. We know from the Jewish Chronics that preparing a burial cave would cost you more than building a house. So you actually spend more money on your death rather than on your life. I don't think this is wise, but this is what they did. And since it was so important, so obviously only the most wealthy people could afford burial caves. What happened to the other ones? They were just, placed in the earth, and they disappeared. This is the door. And here, this is a cave which was not yet excavated. We have a lot of non-excavated cave. This is the one we see as we walk in the national park. You can see that it looks as if it was sealed. Okay, I hope you can see it down here in the lower photo, but it's just mud. So I would like you to keep it in mind, because this cave was not yet excavated. I don't know if they are about to excavate it, because sometimes the archaeologists choose to leave something not excavated, so we as visitors will be able to understand how difficult that was. So that, by the way, connects us to the VFI Plus archaeology. You're gonna dig a lot of mud. So this is the not excavated cave. Please keep that in mind, that all the other caves we are about to see and walk inside, they were exactly the same way. So people actually excavated the whole thing. Okay, we walk upstairs, and we are located now on top of a cave, which is sort of on our right hand side and down below. And I hope you can see that we are looking at stairs. We are looking at stairs, or better to say, we are looking at seats. Similar seats we see in theaters and amphitheaters, Roman theaters and amphitheaters. I hope you can see the seats. And if these are seats, and these are definitely seats, so this flat area in front of us, this is sort of an arena or a stage. And the common explanation is that this is where people gathered when they attended the funeral of Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, because one of the most beautiful, the most luxurious caves are on the right hand side. Let's take a closer look at the same seats. Now, I hope you are convinced that these are seats. Okay, we can imagine the crowd. We followed the coffin of Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi all the way from Tzipori to Beit Shearim, which definitely took them a few good hours. And then the cave was chiseled down below. So before we walk downstairs and visit the cave, let's turn around and take a look at the surroundings. And what we see right here in front of us, this is Carmel Mount. okay, just for your orientation. So we are looking now directly south. And so if we take a look to the right along the mountain ridge, so we reach Haifa. We don't see it from here, but Haifa is towards the right. And if we move towards the left, meaning east, so quite soon we would reach Muhraka, this spot which is associated with Prophet Elijah and the prophets of the Baal. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, this is another door. You see that it's made of a different rock, and right here you can see this. And I'm not sure about the word, but when you have a lock, okay, they used to have a metal piece here which would lock this door, and it will be attached to another sort of a little niche in the rock around the entrance, and somebody took this door away and took the metal piece away, and so the door cannot be locked any longer. And the reason for it is because even though we are talking about Judaism and we are not supposed to put any precious objects with the deceased, because we don't really believe in, we do believe in resurrection, but we don't believe that the dead person will have an afterlife in the other world and they will need their jewelry there. But even though we don't really believe that, it does not really exist in Judaism, but somehow that was definitely the practice. People did take their jewelry and precious objects with them, maybe just in case. Another cave with a beautiful sarcophagus. The sarcophagus is the flesh eater, the flesh consumer. This is the meaning of the word, and this is where the dead body would be placed. And now, finally, that's about time, I think, for us to walk into one of these caves. It's not yet the cave of Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi. This is another one, but let's take a look, take a deep breath, and go. Why does it move? What's wrong? Okay, here we go. Okay, this is the lawn sarcophagus, and here you can see more niches. This is where the dead bodies will be placed. Probably the more wealthy one would have a sarcophagus, and the other maybe members of the family. We assume that such a cave would belong to one family. They would be placed just, in the ground, right next to the head of the family. We are talking about estimations. Okay, if we take a look at one of the windows, so this is what you will see. You can see quite a few more sarcophaguses. Later on, we will be inside there. This cave has a Greek inscription on it, which is a bit difficult to see, but this is an inscription dedicated to the family who owned the cave. And now we will be entering one of the beautiful caves, which is called Me'arat HaLulavim, the Lulavim cave. The lulav is this palm tree branch, which is used for Sukkot, one of the symbols of Sukkot. And these things on the walls are assumed to be lulavim, are assumed to be these palm branches. Personally, I'm not sure that this is the lulavim. To me, it looks more like a knife maybe, sword maybe, but this is assumed by the archaeologists to be a lulav. Here you can take a closer look at it. I don't know, you will decide if this is a lulav or not. But this is the official name of the cave. So we are inside this cave now. We can see the same lulavim on both sides. The quality of the doors, just take a look at the right, how accurate it is, how well done it is. I mean, it cost a fortune to whoever owned it. And now we will be leaving this cave on the our way to the next one. This is a sealed cave, which has a inscription without a name. And what we could find and what we could figure out of this inscription is this is where the loved one rests. Kan nacha hayikara. We don't know who she was, and there is no entrance to that cave. And here we are on our way to the cave of Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, who actually misplaced what it is. This is where we were standing before. You see this green rail, so that's where we were, with these seats for the followers. And we are getting closer. Okay, you can see that they had 3 entrances. Now the major one, the bigger one, is still closed and sealed with the original doors, and the small opening on the left is open. Let's take another closer look at the doors. I'm so excited about the doors. And here, okay, this is, again, it's just a decoration on the door. It is chiseled. It is totally useless. Somebody worked very hard to have it, but it actually looks like the handle of the door. I mean, you are supposed to feel as if you are entering the house. Maybe that was the reason to work so hard, you know. This person, he lived in his house for, I don't know, maybe till he was 120, but now he's going to reside in his cave for another, who knows, until Messiah comes. So let's make it pretty, and then, you know, home style, sort of a cave. On top of that, these caves were used by large families during generations. So when you come and visit the you know, the burial cave of your ancestors, so maybe you want to feel home. So we are getting inside again. Okay, let's walk into the burial cave of Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi and his sons. I'm really trying to make you see how big, how huge this burial cave is. Of course, it's better as anything else. It's better to have it in front of you. In reality, you actually walk inside this cave. The cave is entirely artificial. It is chiseled in a relatively soft limestone, this type of limestone, which is called chalk or kirton in Hebrew, but yet just, you know, you see the size, how hard you have to work and for how long you have to work in order to make such a cave. Okay, let's continue. We keep walking. You may be able to see that there are also walls and arches and pillars which are built inside the chisel cave. I mean, it's not enough for you to make a huge artificial cave, but you also, again, you wanted to make look as if it was a house, and so you add arches and you add walls and you add doorways and corridors, and you just want to make yourself home. I don't know if you feel home, but that was the idea. And as we proceed, we're getting closer to this little wall here. And on the other side of this little wall, as we take a look, this is what we see in front of us. And this is it. Okay. So this is very simple. It's obviously niches for the dead bodies, and two of them, so assumingly a man and his wife. And there is such a contradiction between how big this cave is and how well it is prepared, and this beautiful, the beautiful arches of the doorway, as you saw in the beginning, and lack of coffin. I mean, this is not what you would expect to find in such an expensive cave. And we know from the Talmud that Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, his will was to be buried in a very simple way. So maybe, probably, this is what archaeologists assume. This is indeed the burial cave of Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, even though we did not find an inscription, because of how beautiful and expensive the cave is and how simple the actual tomb is. No sarcophagus, no decorations, no nothing. And on top of that, these are the inscriptions which were found in the cave. Now you can see the red and black color. It looks like a graffiti which was made like a week ago, I guess. But these are the original inscriptions which were found when this cave was first excavated. And it mentions in Hebrew and Greek languages, which were the common languages then, the names Gamliel and Anina. And these are the son and the disciple, the closest disciple of Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi. And since this is the only cave where these names were found, so again, that supports the theory that this is the tomb of the person who assembled the Mishnah. And again, there's no way we can say enough about the significance of the Mishnah, because without the Mishnah, there would be no Talmud, and without the Talmud, there would be no present-day Judaism as we know it. And the whole thing is thanks to Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi. So if you've had enough caves, so let's get back to the sunshine. Look at the green color, look at the anemones. Once again, breathe some fresh air. And now we are about to enter our next cave, which is even bigger than the previous one. But this cave we're about to visit, which is the cave of the coffins, as you can see, or better to say the cave of the sarcophagus, is a cave which was used by so many. Again, we don't really know why so many people, why the sarcophagus is so different. It looks as if they were on display. I don't know, you will see in a minute. And this is something, just to show you the reality. This is a sign which is right next to the sign of the number of the cave, and it says in Hebrew that according to the descriptions of the Tav Sagol. Tav Sagol is like we have the green path, which has to do with the COVID, and we have the purple one. The purple one means that only this and that number of people can gather at one room at the same time. Okay, and that of course depends on the size of the room. So according to the purple path, there are no more than 40 people allowed at the same time inside this cave. Unfortunately, we are going to be there alone, and this is the normal situation in Beit Shearim. It's rarely visited, and that's a pity. So this is what it looks like. You see same three arches, very precious, very beautiful, very luxury. And we are inside. Okay, this is just the beginning. You can already see the coffins. The coffin on the right, the sarcophagus on the right, you can see that the lid is removed. Obviously, it was found empty, and we even have some plastic board telling us what the inscription says. So let's take a closer look. This is the inscription. I hope you can see the letters. I'm not asking you to try and read, but I hope you can see at least some letters. Like here, this is the Shin, and there is another shin, and here's a chet, and some more over here. Okay, fortunately, enough. We had archaeologists who read it for us and translated it to English, and that's what it says. Here they lie, Atio, the daughter of Rabbi Gamliel, son of Nehemiah, who died a virgin at the age of 22. Okay, which is rather unusual because in the age of 22, at this time and even today among the Orthodox families, a girl should not be a virgin. I mean, she's not expected to be a virgin. She's not expected to be a single. But here we are. We have an inscription, and there is also the daughter of Rabbi Yehuda, and she died at the age of 9 and 6 months. Well, she was probably a virgin as well, but it's not mentioned because that's obvious. And again, that means that probably the first girl, that was rather unusual, and so that was specifically mentioned. So that means that we have two girls, maybe they were friends, maybe relatives, we don't know, were buried at the same time in the same sarcophagus, in the same coffin, which is not the usual practice. Normally, one person would be buried in a sarcophagus, and then after a while, the bones would be removed and placed in a smaller box, which is known as the ossuary, and another person, dead person would be able to use the same coffin because the coffin was very expensive. Again, let's take another look and let's walk a little bit around this huge cave. Okay, we have a few corridors, a few entrances. We have so many sarcophaguses, and what is common to all of them, you may see that they all have some, some openings, which is obviously was not made when the sarcophaguses were actually used. And that's because, as I told you before, if you were wealthy enough to have a sarcophagus, so you were definitely wealthy enough to have enough jewelry to take with you to the to the next world. So if you are a robber of the sarcophaguses, so you can either remove the lid, but this is very, very heavy, or you can come with I don't know, maybe a hammer or something, and just chisel an opening for yourself, and then you can either push your hand inside. Sometimes you can push a stick inside, and you can try and get jewelry. And here you can see the name of the person. Again, we don't know who he was, but he was definitely the owner of the sarcophagus. You can choose your favorite decoration. We have incredible variety. So these are just some of them. And if you prefer lions, okay, these are supposed to be lions. They sort of look like lions, probably not the best artist. These lions are licking something or eating something that looks like an ice cream. We don't know what was meant, but they are definitely eating something. And more decorations, another opening of the kind I've mentioned. And here you can see just a few little examples of the reasons for the robbers of the sarcophaguses to work so hard. You can see golden decorations. You can see a ring. You can see a necklace. You can see some coins. These were not found in Beit Shearim. These were found in Givat HaMivtar, which is, today it's part of Jerusalem. It used to be a separate graveyard. And this is a beautiful Again, wall painting. These are now on display in the Israel Museum. They're not from Beit Shearim, but you can see the quality of the jewelry, and you can see why somebody would bother to work hard to make an opening in the coffin to get some of these. And more coffins, and even more coffins, and better lines down here. By the way, I don't know if you're surprised by the fact that Jews, and these are definitely Jews, would use animals as decorations of their coffins. But if you recall, we have mosaics with not just animals, but even pagan idols in box. So that was a common practice. Another just beautiful coffin with this is probably an eagle, and this is definitely a bull. Maybe the person loved both, we don't know. And more beautifully decorated sarcophaguses. And this is, remember I told you that we have synagogues with mosaics, with pagan gods. So here we are. This is a sarcophagus. And here you can see a creature. You can see the head with a mouth and eyes and wings. Yeah. So this is identified as Nike. Nike is the goddess of victory in the Roman world. But this is just decoration for the Jews here. And more, I don't know, maybe these are leaves. No. And okay, a final walk in the cave. Okay, again, we can see these walls inside the chiseled cave. We can see how white it is, how bright it is, and prepare for a little surprise. Little, or maybe not so little. Take a look how tall it is, how high the ceiling is. We are talking, I mean, it just drives me crazy, you know. If we have so many people today who can hardly make a living, I'm sure positive that back then, some 17, 16 centuries ago, we had so much more poor people, and yet people spend so much on burial caves. This one is sort of an unfinished one, maybe. Yeah, okay. Wait for the surprise. We are getting there. We are on our way to take a left around the corner. Can you see it? It's already in front of you on your left-hand side. There is a bright light directly on it. And well, now I'm sure you can see what it is. And this is a large menorah, which is chiseled from the same rock as the wall. And yeah, okay. Take a look. So this is the only menorah found in this cave, but one of these caves, which I mentioned before, which is not open to the public unless this is a very special group, some special delegation, or who knows what. There is another cave with many menorahs, but at least we can see this one. So since it is endless, and here's the menorah and more, and another inscription. And this is, by the way, a lead coffin, a coffin made of lead with a menorah, again, right here on it. Can you see the menorah on the left one? and the lead coffin with a cross on it. It's not the same coffin, but just to show you that coffins, the sarcophagus is made of lead, were used all over the Roman and later Byzantine Empire, because in a lead coffin, it is so much easier to carry a dead body from where the person died to the cemetery of his choice. So these coffins are on display in the Israel Museum again. And another inscription, which is now in the Israel Museum, but it came from Beit Shearim, mentioning Marinus and Justus. Okay, very, very Greek names, but we do have a menorah right on top of the tombstone. And finally, I think we had enough caves for one tour, and we are back at the fresh air. And now we are back to the same spot where I told you before, this little road leading uphill, which we will walk and not drive because, no good for driving. And as you can see here, it says to the Alexander Zaid monument. The last presentation by Gadi Ben Dov, he was talking about the pre-IDF organizations, the underground Jewish movements, and the first one being the Shomer. So he told me that he will be talking about the Shomer. I believe he did so. And one of the greatest Shomrim, one of the first Shomrim, and definitely the best known Shomer by far, is Alexander Zaid. So we are walking uphill. We see this beautiful panorama. Remember, we saw the similar one from downhill. Here on the right on the hill, this is Beit Shearim. Sorry, this is Kiryat Tivon, the present-day town, and beautiful Carmel Mount right in front of us. So this is what we see from the top of that hill in the end of the road. And right on top of this hill in the end of the road, we see this wall made of very well chiseled, very precisely arranged stones, which were definitely the foundation of a huge and definitely very significant structure. And this is believed to be the seat, the Moshav, the location of the Sanhedrin. So maybe, probably, this is where Sanhedrin gathered when Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi was alive and lived in Beit Shearim. Again, the sign of the Sanhedrin trail and the rock and the beautiful oak tree with my car parked right next to it. And finally, and eventually, this is the HaShomer. HaShomer means the guard, Alexander Zaid. And the reason why he is here, this is a very, very famous statue. You can see it from the road down below. This is like I would say this is one of the few statues which are familiar to every Israeli, and this is one of the few names which are familiar to every Israeli. And the reason why he is here is because as a Shomer, he settled down on this hill just on his own with his wife, and he was the guard of the lands of Beit Shearim and present-day Kiryat Tivon and the surroundings, and he was basically guarding them from the local Arabs. So he is the Shomer of the area, and since he did not have that much to do, you don't guard like 24/7. So when he was not guarding, he was walking around and exploring a little bit, and he was the one who discovered the first cave of Beit Shearim, and he was the one who contacted the British authorities, and he was the one thanks to whom we actually have the National Park of Beit Shearim, which we just visited. So these are the famous photos of the Shomer organization. And this is the statue, which is looking towards these little white domes of the tomb of Sheikh Abrek. And Sheikh Abrek is the local holy person for the Muslims. So we are running out of time. I have a song here, so if you want to, if you need to go, so please feel free, and it's okay. But I started just a few minutes later, and I do want you to listen to the song, not because maybe it's such a great one, but this is one of the best known ones, and you will be able to hear the words Sheikh Abrek. This is the tomb of this sheikh, the local Arab leader who later became a saint. And all these lands we're looking at right now are the lands of Khartia. Khartia is the name of an Arab village which used to be here, and the lands of Sheikh Abrek. That's how they are known. And somehow it became very, very famous. So, okay.
Julia?
Yeah?
I don't believe you clicked the share sound and video before you started sharing, so the other videos haven't really worked. The
other videos did not have sound. Tell me now. Do you hear something?
Yep, thank you.
No, they were
רחומת מותי, אדמה אדמתי, רחומת מותי, רוח רב חרבונייך ירתיח, רוח רב ירתיח, הרסתי חלי בדם, שאדם ונדם, הרסתי חלי בדם, שאדם ונדם, על גבעות שייח' אברק וחרתיה, לה 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 לה, חרתיה.
Okay, and he goes on and on. Pamela, I could see you singing. Am I right? You know that song. So the singer.
I don't know the word. I don't know the words, but I know the tune.
But you do know the music, right? And it's really like easy to get into it. So the singer is one of the most famous and old Israeli singers. His name is Yehoram Gaon, and the song was written by a great Jewish Israeli poet, Alexander Pen. So this is the beautiful young man you saw, and Alexander Pen was a friend of Alexander Zaid, and he used to come over here and have a coffee with him, and he wrote that song, looking at the lands of Khartia, the village which does not exist any longer. So that's it. Let's just take a broad look at the surroundings. It's a beautiful spot to be and look at the lands of Sheikh Abrek and Khartia and present day Yafula and Sde Yaakov and Kiryat Tivon, and just enjoy the view. I guess you can hear the sound of the wind. It's getting windy. It's getting cloudy. Actually, it's about to start raining. Not a heavy rain, but it's the so-called blessed rains. We definitely need more rains. The more the better. We want to keep the green grass as possible. So we were looking at the Carmel Mount, and now you're looking at the Jezreel Valley and the water reservoirs which collect rainwater and later it's used for irrigation. And far in the distance you can see the Samaritan Mounts, and then you can see Givat HaMoreh and and the nearby village of Yaakov and Ramat Yishai. And this little fence on the left, this is the fence around the monument of Alexander Zaid. So thank you for joining me. That was Beit Shearim and a beautiful view. So thank you again, and here's a wish, and I hope you will come with me there and other places.
Thank you so much, Julia. Can you, before we get to the questions, could you talk about next week?
Yeah. Okay. Next week. Next week will be, I'm really, seriously, I don't know how many of you are interested in that topic. Okay. I don't know. Frankly, I have no idea. But I decided to give it a try because I think that just like Beit Shearim, you know, this is one of the places most people never visit because there are better things to do. And yet I think it does deserve our attention. Okay. So here we Beit Shearim, and I am really shocked that we had 120, participants or computers joining. That's amazing. I did not expect more than 50. So thank you guys. And so the topic for having said that, it's okay if we will have like 20 participants next week, but I believe it is a topic which deserves attention. And the topic is Kivrei Tzadikim, okay, the tombs of the righteous, but not the righteous among nations, but rather the righteous rabbis, people who are considered to be having special qualities, having special rights in the eyes of God. Okay, it's more complicated than that, but basically, these are people who did things which to be so powerful that they definitely have special connection to God, and therefore, if we are as simple Jews will visit their tombs and perform a specific ritual or pray for specific things, so they will be able to help us because they will be our intermediates, between us and God. So this is the worship of these tombs of the tzaddikim, of the righteous. Now, the reason why most people never deal with the topic is because, at least for me, most tourists I guide, they're not orthodox, they're not practicing, and if they are practicing, they are not practicing in terms of, oh, let's go to the tomb of the rabbi and pray there. Okay, and yes, this topic is very important, and actually it is connected to our life in Israel. Even myself as a not very, let's say, not very practicing Jew, it does have a meaning for me, and it does influence my life in a way. Okay, so I guess most of you never been to a tomb of a tzaddik. You may have seen one, but you probably never made it inside. So the presentation will be about some of the tomb of the righteous and what happens there, why it happens there, and what is it all about.
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, this was great. Everyone, there's a ton of questions and a ton of people saying how much they enjoyed your presentation. So
really? Okay, yeah. I'm glad. So since we know each other over Zoom for so long, and I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation, I can tell you that I was not very focused, and I was almost like, forgive me for not doing it so well, but I'm glad I did it well, because as I told you before, I was like, I came back home like 5 minutes to 9 after a very long and amazing day in Bethlehem and its surroundings, and it was sort of difficult for me to do the switch in mind, from Jesus Christ and all these saints and the churches, and all of a sudden talking about Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, and it was like rabbi whom. But
we didn't notice, Julia. So if you hadn't told us, we
okay.
wouldn't have known.
I'm glad I did not apologize, but this is even more special to me than usual.
We also have a lot of Yom Huledet Sameachs in the chat.
Toda rabba. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Steve, did you have something you were about to say?
We did forget to wish a happy birthday to that little person who's sitting behind you.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
She's always with
Malta, happy birthday too.
Thank you. Yeah, she listens. She listens.
Julia, do you want me to read you the questions? Or do you want them?
Yeah, I don't see the questions yet, actually. I see the VF.
Let me look, because a lot of people are asking me questions, so let me just
okay, the first one is Maimonides lived hundreds of years later. Okay, of course, this is true. But as you know, Jews tend to think about and talk about and debate about things which happened long ago. And so even though by the time Maimonides was born, the Sanhedrin did not exist for like 800 years maybe, but Maimonides and other rabbis were still talking about the Sanhedrin and what it meant to be a member of the Sanhedrin and what were the requirements and so even though it was irrelevant for hundreds of years, and yet Maimonides stated that he is sure positive that should have been one of the requirements.
Okay. I see the next question. It's from Harry. Is there an estimate as to how many caves there are? Is there an estimate of how many are buried? Are there names known by Hebrew inscriptions?
Okay, so estimation, no idea. We only know for sure that there's so much more than we are aware of. Okay, that's to begin with. And we know that there are Jews, not by the names. Well, sometimes yes. There are some Jewish names, as you could see. Some of the names are totally non-Jewish, but then they will have some Jewish or Jewish-oriented symbol to them, decoration to them, something like the menorah you saw. But in most cases, we have no special inscription, no special name. But we do know that the different religions and different peoples were not buried together, and this is still true. We have Jewish cemetery, Muslim cemetery, etc. And that was true in the old times as well. So since we have, once you have found one definitely Jewish coffin, so the others would be Jewish as well. And if you found one Christian coffin, we're talking about the Christian cemetery. The separation was the general rule.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to read them, or do you want me to?
Yeah, they read the question which was written to me, but I believe it's a general question. Yell us, why were these tombs put into these dug out rock pits? Okay, so there were a few ways. I did not talk that much about it, but there were a few ways to bury the people. Like today, there's one way. You make a pit and then you put the dead body. In the ancient times, there were a few ways. One of the ways was using the sarcophagus, the stone-made box or a lead box. And sometimes it was just a pit in the ground, and sometimes it were like niches made like shelves, like chiseled shelves made in the walls. We don't know why some people would use this, some people would use that. We do know that the sarcophagus was the most expensive way. And at the same time, we know the sarcophaguses were used several times. Maybe it's just about money. Maybe it's about fashion. Maybe it's about both. We don't really know. But we do know that there were a few ways to be buried.
There is a question that has to do with sarcophagus. I thought only the bones were placed in the sarcophagus after the body was buried and decomposed. Please clarify.
No. That was the other way around. The body was placed in the sarcophagus or in the pit or in the but the dead body would be placed in the sarcophagus. This is why the sarcophagus is always big enough to to have a full body inside. And then after a while, the sarcophagus would be opened again, and then the bones would be collected. And then the bones would be placed in a much smaller box, which is called an ossuary. And this is where they would stay forever and ever. And this practice started with the Second Temple only. During the First Temple period, the bones would be collected, and then they would be just placed in a pit in the ground, and the next person's bones would be placed in the same pit, and again and again. And we have burial caves from the First Temple period with a pit full of bones, like hundreds of pieces of skeletons in one pit. It is so weird because today, the practice is so different. But that was back then. And by the way, we have a biblical expression which is Ne'esaf el avotav. Okay, Ne'esaf el avotav literally means in Hebrew was collected to his ancestors. And that literally means that, you died, somebody collected your bones and placed them with the bones of your ancestors.
Interesting. Was there any graffiti found? Ancient graffiti? Ancient.
Yeah. Well, we don't call them graffiti. We call them ancient inscriptions, but that's basically the same. So if you think about it. So these black and red names of Gamliel and Anina, I showed you in the cave of Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, these are ancient. They are from the same time as the coffins. We have a few others as well, not that many because most of them, they did not survive. It's just paint on the wall. But yeah, we do have them. The inscriptions, the chisels inscriptions, they survive better.
Okay. How large is each of the caves?
All right.
Larry was asking how large is each.
They are very different. I mean, some of the caves are the size of a small bedroom, maybe. Okay. Some of them size of a half of a small bedroom. Some of them are large enough to be with like the large, the last cave we saw with so many coffins. It's like you walk and walk and walk again, and you take a right, you take a left, and you take it all right. And like the catacombs in Rome, if you ever saw those, like the catacombs in Kiev, God forbid, okay, what's going on there. Anyhow, it's huge. I mean, they are much bigger burial caves, much bigger catacombs in Europe, but these are very big. Yeah, like a
got it. Okay. Maxine's asking, when did they start to carve the caves, before or after death?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, that's a good question. Definitely way before, for the simple reason that it would take so long. So, if you died, God forbid you're dead, you can't afford waiting for somebody to make a cave for you because, you will start decomposing way before they're done. The bottom line is that if you have enough money to afford a cave, so you will make sure that you have this cave as soon as you can afford it, because who knows when you die. Okay. By the way, when we read the New Testament, so we read about a guy whose name was Josephus from Arimathea, who was a very wealthy Jew, and he was a follower of Jesus. Now, Jesus was crucified. All of a sudden, they needed a cave for Jesus, and obviously Jesus did not have a cave. Well, he could not afford it. And so Josephus from Arimathea donated his cave to bury Jesus, which proves that this cave was already ready, and Josephus from Arimathea was live and kicking. So bottom line, you definitely want to make sure that you have a proper cave when you are still healthy and wealthy.
Okay. Harry, you have a lot of questions about these. What kind of rock?
Harry.
What kind of rock are the caves hewed? So I said, from? How long is it estimated?
Harry's
What?
Harry's starting to plan while he's healthy and wealthy.
Oh, I see. How long is it estimated to hew out an average cave? Are the caves whitewashed?
Okay, first of all, the rock. Okay, let's start with a simple question. The rock is the limestone. Okay. And in different parts of the country, we have different types of limestone, but anyhow, all the burial caves we know are in limestone. Now, different limestone, different types of limestone, they not equally hard. So the harder the rock is, the longer definitely it will take you to make a cave, and the more expensive that will be. Okay, so in our case, in Beit Shearim, it is the soft type of limestone, which is like chalk. It's relatively easy. Okay, so there is no one answer to the question how long it will take, because it depends on the size of the cave and the type of the limestone. Okay, but we are talking about months.
Okay,
at least. Okay, are they white? Wait, the question: what does it mean, whitewashed? Sorry.
Harry, can you unmute yourself? I'm going to ask you to unmute. Oh, you know what? You can't unmute yourself. I did that to you. Sorry, Harry. Go ahead.
Whitewash is making the walls look white. I see the floors are white.
Okay. When you actually paint it, like
Yeah.
No,
Do they do that?
No, they don't. It's the bedrock. This is the natural color of the limestone.
Okay.
He also wants to know if any of the caves were used for other purposes besides coffins, like food storage, living quarters.
No, you cannot do it, because according to the Jewish tradition, the dead are impure. So there is no way you can use the burial cave for anything else but the dead, because then whatever gets in there becomes impure.
I believe you talked about, somebody asked where they get the stone. Do they have to bring it there?
No, that's the natural. This is the bedrock. That's what
I thought.
This is the rocks right there.
Got it. What happened to bones that were originally present?
What happened to the bones?
Yeah, well, I guess now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we don't know. Okay, we don't know. We assume since almost no bones were found, so we assume that since the robbers wanted the jewelry, so as soon as you get to the jewelry, so you get rid of the bones. Like, that makes sense. And then I guess, like the archaeologists guess that the hyenas and the jackals and the wolves, they will help with getting rid of the bones. In other cases, the bones would just decompose, being thrown away. No.
So they're not. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Most of the rest of it is people saying how wonderful it was, and and how great it was, and I just want to read something I think is funny. Gail wrote, "I'm glad you went through the caves and not me. Thanks so much for this look at these extensive tomb and caves." There is a question from Mark. There's an ossuary in the Israel Museum that has the name of, I don't know if you meant Haifa, Mark, on it. Haifa. You wrote Caifa.
Yeah, probably that's the
high priest was the Kohen
Yeah, the
Gadol.
high priest in the times. Yeah, the
Oh,
high priest in
okay.
the times of Jesus. Yeah. Okay, so yes, the reason osari, there are a few very, very extra famous osaris with names on them, with the inscriptions on them. One of them being this one mentioned now, Haifa, which was found in Givat HaMivtar, the same neighborhood in Jerusalem where the jewelry was found. And yes, there is a name of Haifa. And Haifa is extremely important for Christians because he was the high priest when Jesus was, betrayed by Judas and crucified. So yes, Christians would love to believe, and quite a few Christians believe that this is the actual authority of this high priest. And others say, hey, was there just one? Probably more than one. So there is no way we can prove whether this is the Haifa of Jesus or this is a different Haifa. But yes, it is very famous osari in the Israel Museum with the name of Haifa, which is the name of the high priest.
Julia, did you discuss the honorable profession of grave robbery?
Well, I did not, but I would say that, we always say that being a prostitute is the oldest profession in history. So probably the second one was the grave robber, because people always believed in afterlife, and there's no other way. There is, since you've asked, there is an amazing inscription from the first temple period, which is it's an inscription on a burial cave in Silwan, just across the valley from the city of David. And this inscription addresses the robbers and is telling the robbers, hey, don't bother robbing my tomb because there is no precious objects in it. So this is amazing. Somebody almost 3,000 years ago bothered to make such an inscription, which proves, by the way, one thing is that there were robbers, and second, the robbers were assumed to be able to read, which is far from being obvious. I don't think everybody 3,000 years ago was able to read. I mean, 200 years ago in Europe, most people could not read. But the robber back then was supposed to read an inscription and be very impressed. He probably was not impressed because the cave was found empty and robbed. Okay.
All right, that's it, I think.
Okay, not bad.
Thank you,
Lana. And
thank you so much. I'm glad you got back in time. When Steve told me you were in Beit Lechem, I was thinking, it's just in my head, I was thinking of the map and I was saying, this is going to be really close. So good job getting back.
It is very close. It is very close. It's 9 kilometers from Jerusalem, but the traffic jam has nothing to do with,
No, I meant that the time was going to be close. If you want a traffic jam, I'm like, I don't know if she's going to get here on time.
It was my mistake because
No.
when I scheduled, I don't know if it ever happened to you, but scheduled the presentation, it was scheduled for Thursday, and when I scheduled the tour, it was scheduled for February 24th, and it was not before Sunday when I realized that actually it's the same day. And when I realized that the same day, it was too late to change, so I was
Julia, you've worked very hard today. Thank you very much for the presentation today and all the details. It's an obscure topic, but really held people's attention. Thanks again.
Right. Well, I'm really curious to see how many people would come to listen about the tombs of the righteous, which is such an odd, ultra-Orthodox habit. I'm curious.
Sounds interesting. I mean, there are a couple of people who said they're looking forward to the next
think
week.
it sounds wonderful.
It sounds
I think
really interesting. Yeah.
It sounds great.
Okay.
As soon as Alana gives us the code to get in, we're going to be signed up.
All right. Did everyone have trouble getting in because it was for last month or something? I heard one person had trouble getting in. Larry, is that why you're saying it, or you're just saying you're waiting for the next email?
No, I'm waiting for the next email.
Oh, okay. Because someone
But
said the email had the wrong link.
No, we had.
Well, I've had,
we
this
got
has
two-
happened to me about 4
Wait,
times.
Valerie, let me just listen to what Larry's saying. What
Okay,
were you
sorry.
saying?
We got two emails. One of them had last week's code, and the second had this
Steve?
week's code.
Steve, that's no. All right, we'll figure it out. Thank you, Julia.
Yeah.
Okay,
One of the
thank you,
things also
Lana.
is the date had 2021 on one of the emails.
Okay, well, if anyone has trouble getting into any of these, that's why Steve brings up the index. Please, if you ever have trouble, go to tinyurl.com/VFIeducates2, and you will always have the right link.
Could you repeat that?
I'll put it in the chat again. It is tinyurl.com/VFIeducates2. That's why we always tell people about it. And then I get emails during the presentation of people having trouble getting in. Can I send them something? But I don't see it because I'm running the program with Steve and Julia. So if you ever have trouble, just go to that and you can click on our program. Sorry about that.
And can I ask Julia, can you give us an idea of which Kfarim you're going to next week? And Kim, Tzadikim?
Oh, which tzaddikim I'm going to visit? Well, this is a good question. I didn't really make up my mind yet because there are so many, and we have one presentation, so I'm not yet sure. I can promise that we will be visiting the tomb of Rachel. Okay, that's one I'm sure about, and I'm not yet sure about.
Are we staying in the Yerushalayim Harazitim Bethlehem area, or going up to Tzfat and Tveria?
I'm not sure about Tveria. Maybe we will be definitely going to Rachel's tomb, as I said. We will be visiting Netivot. That's for sure. We will be visiting Amuka. And well, these are the definite ones. I'm not sure about the others, but yeah, it's going to be all over the country.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions for Julia, or can we tell her she can go to sleep?
Julia, Lila Tov.
Thank you so much, Julia.
It's always
Lila Tov.
And happy birthday.
Yeah.
Yom Huledet.
Ilana, you're happier today. I hope you are actually happier. No? But, well, you look.
Steve always tells me to smile, so I'm smiling.
Oh, so finally you listen to him.
Yeah, just for this once. Thanks, Julia.
Okay,
We'll see you next week.
Thank you all. Bye. See you.
Bye.
And Steve, I'll talk to you tomorrow. I hope I will have answers tomorrow. Bye.
Okay. Bye. We are going to have a schmooze session now, like we usually do. You're welcome to stay, or you can go. Up to you. If you do decide to stay, let us know if you're actually there. Lois, I know that you're there, but some people don't put on their video, and we don't know if random people are just listening to us.